This episode is brought to you by Bumble. So, you want to find someone you're compatible with, specifically someone who's ready for a serious connection, totally open to having kids in the future, is a tall, rock-climbing Libra, and loves rom-coms with vegan pizzas on Tuesdays just as much as you do. Bumble knows that you know exactly what's right for you. So whatever it is you're looking for, Bumble's features can help you find it. Date now on Bumble.
This podcast is made possible through donations from listeners like you and our partners at Goalie Ashwa Gummies. You can find them at goalie.com. Use promo code The Show Up Dad Foundation to get 10% off your order. Zendurance Active Wellness and Sports Nutrition. Their products are designed to maximize your health. At Zendurance, they strive to support and have a positive impact on the wellness of every hardworking dad. Use my code The Show Up Dad and get 10% off your next purchase. For more info, go to www.zendurance.com. Tall Man Equipment, standing taller than the rest of the competition in lineman tools since 1952. Give them a follow at www.tallmanequipment.com. And last but not least, Adam Lane Smith. He is an attachment specialist who helps people to heal, connect, and build. Use my promo code SHOW, spelled S-H-O-W, for a 50% discount on his attachment bootcamp course. Thank you. Welcome to the Show Up Dad podcast, where our mission is to improve the well-being of children by increasing the proportion of children growing up with an involved, responsible, and committed father. The Show Up Dad is a 501c3 organization that encourages dads to become more than just a paycheck. Today, my guest is Shane Sullivan. He is a journeyman lineman who's been in the trade for 20 years. He currently is working as a General Foreman at a local line company and is also the recording secretary at Local 47 for the last 6 years. He has been active in the development of apprentices by teaching at the JATC, and Shane has been married going on 20 years coming up, and together they have 2 kids, 19 and 9. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me on here, and glad to share some of my stuff and with the all the listeners. And like I said, appreciate you having me on this.
Yeah, for sure, Shane. Man, you've been around a lot, brother. You got tons and tons of experience, not only in our industry, but in life, brother. And that's why I wanted you to come on here. And it's an honor to have you on, dude. It really is, bro.
Thanks, man. I just listened to your last podcast of Jay Clark, and like I said, what a man to follow. Great man there. A lot of trials and tribulations he had, but he's on top now and sharing his wealth and sharing his knowledge, and great guy to follow, and hope I can measure up to that.
Oh, I'm sure you will, brother. Well, like always, Shane, I want you to open up to our audience. Let us know about your family of origin. How is your relationship with your father, etc., if you don't mind.
I was born in Pasadena, California, 1977. My dad and my mom shortly divorced thereafter, a year after. I lived in Pasadena for a little while, Helmani, and then shortly thereafter, my mom moved me up to my grandparents' house in Penan Hills, California, up by Phelan, Wrightwood Ski Resort, up in that area. Mm-hmm. Went up there, and then I grew up there. I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school. Dad wasn't too much around. I went to him on weekends sometimes. He lived at my grandparents' house, his mom and stepdad's, and wasn't too much of a father figure to so much, but he was more of a friend or a play partner, as in I would go down there and he would play the baseball, play basketball, play that, because he didn't have a job. Mm-hmm. So he was like my friend. So when I would go home, my mom would be basically the man and the dad and the mom. She was working. She's doing all the, I've had 3 or 4 stepdads. So she's in between that and during that, she's basically all of that. And when I'd go see him, it was hard, because when I'd come home, I would take it out on my mom because I wanted to be with my dad. But at the same time, as I've grown up, he wasn't the father figure that I wouldn't want to grow up to be. But at the same time, he is my dad.
Yeah.
So with that, skip that forward to high school. You know, like I said, I went to, you know, weekends, and he was into drugs and alcohol, and he shortly had a brain aneurysm when he was, I think it was right around 18, 19, 18, I think, 19, and passed. To this day, you know, just watching father movies or anything that has a father in it, I get super emotional, just because he's no longer here, and I can't share those, you know, feelings and stuff, that even though he was not a good dad and wasn't around ever, I still, you know, I see those, you know, movies. I know they're movies, but I see other dads that are taking their kids out, or even for their 21st birthday, go have their first beer with them, or, you know, share all that with them. Well, I don't get to do that. And so even to, like I said, to this day, you know, see that on movies and see that elsewhere, it touches me, because, you know, I don't want to be that to my kids, and I haven't. So from there, I got drafted out of high school, played with the Chicago Cubs for 5 years. And then I got drafted, left, right? I was 18, I was gone. And then I got into doing some cell phone tower work with another brother that's in the trade still to this day. And he was working with me at the cell phone tower place, and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about going down, and you like climbing? You want to do climbing poles?" And I was like, you know, but I like the tower work. And so anyway, he said, "Hey, my pop said, don't try to go the outside construction, because it's probably a bit faster way in and stuff." And this was, like I said, around 2001, 2002 ish. And so I went down in the apprenticeship, and believe it or not, at that time, it was like, you filled out your application, I'm talking a week later, you're in. It was super quick, because I don't think really no one knew the value of being a lineman. Everybody, and it wasn't like, obviously, what the wages are today. But so I got in, went through the apprenticeship, and my class, even to this day, lot of good men, man. Lot of good guys running companies, superintendents of companies. I mean, there a lot of good dudes, man. And like I said, and then from there out, we're here 20, like you said, 20 years later, and this is my 20th year, and been blessed by the trade. But just with the dad part, I've just recently got into this more and more. I'm currently, like you said, with a local company, and I work out of town, and I missed a lot. And even when I was younger, I lived right here right close to the house, and you get so sucked into working the hours, and you get the paycheck, and then, you know, your son might have the best aluminum baseball bat out there. It might cost $385, but what you've missed is you missed the time. Yeah. And that time you can never get back. And it beats me up today, but my 19-year-old son now has called me, you know, not even 2-3 weeks ago, and said, "Dad, I just want to tell you, thank you." He's going to Cal State University, San Bernardino, playing baseball. Oh, wow. And so he even, you know, has called me today, or not today, but a couple weeks ago. And I just want to let you know, Dad, that thank you for everything you've done, because where I am today is because of you. Right. So yeah, he acknowledges it now, but when they're young, they don't.
No, for sure they don't. I just had a guest, Brandon Joffe. He's a clinical therapist, and he deals with teenagers and stuff like that. One of the main things he said is, as parents, we tend to want the best for our children, right? So we try to push forward and control every situation, right? But we can't control anything. All we can do is just guide them and present options for them. And hopefully, just hopefully, we have enough influence in their life that they hear our voice when there's a lot of things pulling their attention, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, that influence requires time, you know, and that's time spent with them, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I tell even the apprentices, and stuff today, even linemen, younger linemen, and just what older linemen used to tell me when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
The money's going to come.
Yep.
It's time that you throw away that never gets back. So and then if you don't give the time, right? Like you said, they'll hear your voice. They're like, hey, dad says this, don't do this, or he does this. But the time that you showed him that, and the time you sit down with him, the time you hang out with him, those are the days, right? Those are the days we cherish. And to top that off, if you don't have a good wife to back
Mm-hmm.
me, right? I've been with my wife going on 20 years, like you said, May 4th. And if I didn't have that, then the family would falter, because she's the backbone, because I'm gone. Even to this day, I'm still gone. I come home on weekends, I go back. But if I didn't have that, it would be in shambles. So with the strong woman behind you, even to the young apprentices, young linemen that are coming out, where their wife's like, where are you going at 2 a.m.? Well, I'm not going out to cheat on you. I'm going for a call out. I'm going to provide for the family to make it better. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember a lot coming in, that's a lot. Like, yeah, I can't take the call out. My future wife or my fiance or my girlfriend thinks I'm going somewhere else. But the main thing is they're going out to provide, to put the lights back on for other families that don't have it at that point, with a car hit pole or a storm or whatever have you, So you just got to have a strong support behind you. If you have that, dude, you're golden.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if I didn't have
definitely.
my wife, Dawn, I'd be a wreck.
Yeah, for sure. And it sucks too, because in our line of work, bro, we don't want to be having to worry about, man, my wife, I don't want her thinking on this and this, and then have to go and think through some critical steps that may cost a life or our own life. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So you definitely have that sense of, man, I got my wife. She's at home. She's holding down the fort. Right.
Correct.
Yeah, no.
And then, like I said, with that being said, now my wife works for the hall, right? Now she's the secretary at Local 47, and she was a respiratory therapist.
Okay.
And before, and she quit because she saw the kids, and the kids affected her a lot of, sticking the trach down their throat and all that stuff. So that really affected her. The obviously all patients did, but the kids, what really affected her. So she stopped when we had her second kid, Gunner, and then when she got done with that, then she got with Pat Lavin, talked with him and stuff like that. And I was recording secretary, and I just, and she talked to him, and finally, after 3-4 years of talking with him, finally interviewed, and she got hired, and she still works there today. Blessed to be. We're both union members. She's a union member. So very blessed to be in part of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's awesome, dude, that Local 47, I'm a member now of Local 47, but just to be able to be a part of a union that backs their members the way this hall does. I'm very fortunate to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? I've been a part of other unions where it wasn't as strong as out here. And it's like night and day. It truly is. I truly believe what Local 47 is doing, and I'm grateful for them. I am.
I couldn't be more proud to be in this union. Not just International Brotherhood, but when I first got in, I was 1245, and then when 47 broke away or started, took outside line, I went into 47, and couldn't be more proud to be a part of this union. Obviously, things have changed. But with that, no matter if you're a man or a woman in the Brotherhood, no matter if you're a groundman to a traffic control to a journeyman lineman, we all got to back each other. We still got to, if you're going down the freeway and you see that sticker on the side or the back of the window and they're broke down, hey, maybe pull over and see what they need, see if they need help. Because we're all one big family. And if we all back each other, we'll be as strong as anybody can. No one will take us down.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Definitely. I heard a story one time. This is operator, right? And, you discussed about having Jay on the podcast, right? And one of the things that this operator, he approached me and he's like, man, I remember Jay. Clark, right? He's like, oh, I was like, oh yeah, well, what happened, And he's like, well, he's like, I remember going into his office. I was going to work for him as an operator, and I was there with another lineman, and it was me and this lineman. And Jay came in. He asked me, "Who are you?" And he's like, Jay's this towering guy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is, right? He's like, I'm like 5 foot nothing. He tells me, he's like, oh, this guy's looking down at me and he's asking me who I am. So I explained to him I'm his operator and stuff. And he turns around, looks at his office guy, tells him, don't you ever treat a union brother like that again. Get these men some seats, took them into the office, told him he was extremely sorry that they were treated like that, had the lineman sit at his desk, had the operator sit right at the desk so they could fill out their paperwork, and then went and commenced to chewing the guy out in the office for not treating a union brother the way they needed to be treated. You know what I mean? That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, no, it's man, I tell you, I have a quick story about, so I was at a show up in Southern California again, and I was an apprentice at this time, and there was a it was back when it was our union's super strong now, but it was really, really strong, I would say, in the early 2000s, even stronger. Not saying it's faltered, but it was strong, where like this guy drove in from Michigan, and he took a call out of the hall, drove down, and I remember specifically he was driving a Nissan Maxima, right? And he drove in our show up, and the union steward said, yeah, you're gonna have to get that, park that outside the gates.
Yep.
Right? And the guy's like, no, I just took a call for here. I'm right here. He says, correct, but there's only union made cars in here, and you're gonna put that or American made cars, I'm sorry, and you're gonna put that Nissan outside. And they said no, and no joke, they used the forklift, picked that car up, and took it right outside the gates. Yep. Right. And from then on, even to this day, my advice is just keep being strong with our union, like I said. And dude, I think we're all going to prosper. We just got to keep safe, keep each other safe, and just keep being strong with the union. You know what I mean? Like, we have great wages, we have great benefits. You could always say it can be better, right? Everybody wants to make more. Everybody wants to be the millionaire, right? Including myself, believe me. But what we have today, from where it came from our founding fathers to today, right? It's a great, great profession. And just like I said before, we just got to give our kids the time. Be that dad. Be the dad. You know what I mean? The dad part's huge. Like how you said, the show up dad. The name of the podcast. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm a General Foreman. I get caught up in the work sometimes. I'm like, I want to make sure the crews are good, the linemen are good, and keep them safe. But at the same time, they're going to be okay. If I go home a Saturday, cause I'm going to miss $800 or whatever it is, go home and be with your kids. Cause that's before you know it, they're out of the house, and then they're grown up, and then, oh yeah, dad, they'll know that you were out working, like my 19-year-old is now, but that, like you said, the time, and there's no price on that.
No, there isn't. Definitely not. Shane, what do you do, like, to make your kids aware? Do you like share with them? And I'll just give you an example on that podcast earlier, like I talked about. And, I was explaining to him that my kids know I'm a journeyman lineman, right? They know that.
100%.
But we watched the movie, right? And they're watching, I think it was like Life on the Line or something like that. That one with John Travolta.
Yeah, with John Travolta.
Yeah. And they see them climbing in the rain and stuff like that. And my boys and my daughter look at me like, man, Dad, you do that? And I was like, where have you been? You know what I mean? And man, getting back to what Brandon was saying earlier on the other podcast, he's like, man, take the time to explain to your children what you do. And I was guilty of it in that moment, because I never, they knew Daddy was a lineman and stuff like that, but I never took the time to share with them what I actually did. Right. And it's so important what I'm getting at, because we are literally showing our kids how to communicate with us. Okay. So if I'm really short with them and they don't know what I do, how are they going to respond to me when I ask them those questions at the dinner table? So how was your day? Oh, it was okay. They learned that from somewhere. They're getting that from me. So I, as a father, being the leader, the influencer of the home, right, have to mimic that in a way that they know how to communicate. Right.
Right. Yeah, no, I think my older one knows a little more. Because I'll be driving by a pole, and you know how we do. We drive by a pole and like, yeah, I did that. And my wife will be like, yeah, your dad tells me every time we drive by it, we see it, right?
Yeah.
I think with the younger one, I don't think I've expressed it, so I think I need to a little more. But I think at the same time, um, since my wife's in the union now and she works at the hall, I think it brings a little more, because when we go to these big functions for 47, like the picnics or the Christmas parties or stuff like that, we take the little one more, because there's more than there was 18 years ago, 16 years ago when my son was littler. There's a little more. So I think with that said, the little one grasped it a little more, and he caught on a little more, because now, he'll be like, hey, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to be a lineman, right? And that's the 9-year-old, where my 19-year-old has never said, hey, Dad, I'm going to be a lineman, right? He's starting to talk about it now when he gets done with baseball, like, hey, I might want to get in the trade. And I'm like, okay. But my 9-year-old already, put the hard hat on and said, Dad, I want to be a lineman like you when I grow up. And he surfs, so he's like, I want to surf and be a lineman. And so I think with the little one, that's where I think I'm also guilty of too. There, I need to show him a little more, like, hey, this is what we do. Because, like I said, the older one, like with the Crescent Ranch, and teach him the tools, right? Because a lot of kids, when even the apprentices now that get in the trade, hey, can you grab me a flathead? And they'll just bring they'll bring a Phillips.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So they don't even know the tools. So I definitely got to do that more, so that my kids are, like you said, they're not short at the dinner table. They're not short with their girlfriends. And like what you hit on was perfect. My 19-year-old, you can ask him today. I told him a couple weeks ago, all I want you to do, you don't have to follow what I do. You don't have to be a lineman. All I want you to do is be a good citizen of the United States. I want you to be a good father figure. And I want you to have a good work ethic, to be a good worker. And then at the end, I want you to be a good person, right? I want you to be polite. I want you to be a nice kid out there, because they're all a lot of punks. And the more respectful you are, the more respect you get.
And it's crazy too, because I hear older guys like our age, you know what I mean? In their 40s and stuff, and like, oh man, this new generation. It's like, dude, who do you think raised this generation? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, take some responsibility, you know what I mean? It's us, it falls on us, and we didn't get here overnight,
Yeah. But with that being said too, I think, I don't know, like where you came from, and you probably see it here where you're now, but I think that when I was coming up, there was, I would say, the foremen were 50-55, right? The GFs were 62, 63, and they're getting ready to retire, and they're the GFs, right? Yep. And like I said, that's what I am now, and I'm 45 as a GF. So like I said, this is just what I see, right? Yeah. And I see the work is so predominantly getting stronger and stronger and bigger, that now, like, hey, he just graduated from the JATC 6 months ago, right? He's a lineman. Well, we'll wait 2 more months. We'll throw him in as a foreman, right? And then, no, it's only going to be just for a little bit till we get the other one. And then before you know it, he's been there 3 years.
Yep.
Right. And it's not to say that the guy's a bad guy, right? He could be a good lineman. It's just that the experience that we have now today, right, compared to the experience when we were coming in, way different, dude. Way different.
I agree, man. It used to be that coming up, right? If you had an older gentleman, a guy who had the wisdom on you, right, the knowledge, the linemen who were the foreman, the young guys, would give up their position and be like, "Here, you're going to be the foreman," and they would step down. You know what I mean? Just to give that guy, because they gave credit where credit was due. They knew that guy. You know what I mean? A lot of the men I came up with, I think there's only one left or two guys left that are actually still in their tools. You know what I mean? The rest are all retired or they passed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're, doing the GF thing, foreman thing, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But yeah, we definitely are losing that knowledge For sure. One of the biggest things that I see is that guys that are becoming these foremen right out of, right out of the JATC. I mean, yeah, they probably know the work, right? They're good workers, like you said. They're knowledgeable, everything like that, and they're probably way more educated than when you and I went through, for sure,
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, but at the same token, you definitely have to have that life knowledge, bro. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because how are you going to run 4 guys, right? How are you going to run with them and be in charge of them if you don't even know how to take charge of yourself at 24 years old?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
You're still trying to figure out yourself and the way you're going to lead yourself.
Right.
You know? So there's
Yeah.
definitely a huge learning curve these guys are stepping into the role. So for guys that are stepping into these foreman positions, all I can say is, man, it's going to take a little bit, dude. It's a big learning curve, and be patient with yourself, and do not think you know everything.
Right.
Ask questions.
Yes. I was just gonna say that. Ask a lot of questions. Growing up, coming through the trade, that's what the older guys always said. Ask questions, Believe me, I've had lockouts myself. I'm not the best lineman out there either.
Yeah.
Right. But I've asked questions. I try to do the best I can. I try to learn the best, right? If there's extra knowledge to know, I try to read up on it just to make sure, right? And then even today, when they might do a brand new RSR that's out in the field, right? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I haven't seen that put together yet, or I haven't done one, right? And I'm GFing it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I go out and watch. I'll go out and watch, like some of the younger guys be like, oh, I put 3 or 4 of these together, watch. And then, you read the spec, you go out and watch. And I'm not out there going like, no, dude, this is not that. It's not how you do it, right? I'm learning too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know it all either.
Yeah.
So it's always good to keep learning, asking questions. That's what makes us better as IBW linemen or
Mm-hmm.
IBW together. Just keep learning.
Yeah, for sure. And it even takes that back to fatherhood, bro.
Yes.
A lot of times as men, we don't want to say, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do this, right? And then we take that back home, and we don't even want to open up with our wives, bro, of
Yeah.
stuff we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And then we fall back on the default mode of the way we were raised. And that might not be necessarily the greatest way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So we fall into this cycle of doing the same thing over and over again that's not working. So we need to stop that, right? Because by definition, that's insanity, correct?
Yes. Exactly.
So we need to stop that, and I think it's important to, when you get to that point, just stop what you're doing, reassess, and then
Yeah.
go from there, right?
Yeah, like I just recently, I was just telling my wife this week, I went and bought a devotional book, right? And it was it says God's calling you, right? And what I did is the reason why is because there's some things like that I just think I need to reassess in some of my stuff, right? Yes, that's it, right? And I read it. I just bought it this week, so I started April 17th or 18th, whatever it was,
Yep.
and I've read it every day. And I called my wife and I told her, and I said, and it's pretty crazy because a couple of things I was like, oh wow, right? And it's like someone's talking to me, but it's written in a book, right? So exactly what you have right there is what I just bought, and it's I like it. I dig it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy. Like, no matter what people believe or anything like that, you don't got to believe in God. Doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And whatever it is you believe or whatever, that's on you. Okay. We're not here to preach to nobody or anything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you're on that deathbed, okay, you're going to be responsible for how you raised your family.
Yeah. Family is number one. I have tattoos like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
All across my knuckles it says family first, right? That I
like
put them
that.
I put them on my thumbs, so I see that in my hands every day, right? I do nothing, like me going out of town to work, me doing all this, and everybody's like, why do you do it? Why? It's for my family, right? Obviously I have a house in Huntington Beach, right? Well, I got this, my wife and I built this, right? And it's for our family, and they're number one. and they'll always be number one.
How do you, Shane, for our listeners, how do you keep your family first, especially being on the road and stuff like that when you are? Like, what are some of the measures you take to make sure that you still have those connections, brother?
For sure, we try to take the vacations, right? The week vacations, maybe take a few more than, other ones, weekend trips, right? Other things, we try to do the things together when I am home. My like I said, my son's 9-year-old and surfing. I've surfed. I'm not good, right? But I want to learn. I want to take lessons so I can go with him, right? So I can be out there with him. Then my wife goes, and then we're all one big family out there surfing. We don't know how. My 9-year-old's really good, right? But I want to be out there with him so I can learn. I told my wife I'm going to take lessons of that, right? So I just try to incorporate, we try to get it together. Like later after the podcast today, we're going to go ride our bikes down to the beach as a family and go cruise around, right? Maybe grab a bite for lunch, whatever have you. I just try to incorporate, try to, because I know it's the time that really sticks back in my head. We got to do something. So that's just my thing, is I just want to be as much family oriented as I can. Go to ball games, go to anything that we can do together, because before you know it, like we talked before, they're gone, and then it's just me and my wife, right? Then we start all back over again, like we're dating again almost, right? Because then it's just me and her again. So that's just my thing, is I just try to do as much as I can with them, and then I try, which I'm trying to work on. If I'm having a bad week at work, I don't try to bring that home, right? Because that's not good. And I have before, like me being away, and then Sunday hits, I'm like, oh, I got to drive back up Monday, and then I start getting in that mood, right? And I got to work on that, because I feel I'm jealous, because then they're all here and then I leave, right? Can I change it? Yes, but where I'm working right now is a great place to work. So I take that in conjunction of everything. So like I said, I try to incorporate everything I can with them as much as I can when I'm here.
No, like you, Shane, man, Sunday would come around, brother, and I don't know for why, but I would get like in this mode where it was easier to detach, right? We have a lot of guys now, influencers, are saying, oh, you got to detach, you got to detach, you got to detach. Okay, well, that's what I used to do. I used to detach and look at my family as an object. That way it was easier for me to leave. The problem with that is we get stuck in that mode of detaching all the time. So when it's time to attach to our families and make those connections that are so important, it's damn near difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. But I used to get upset, man. I used to get upset, and I just put my head down. My wife would be like, you're in work mode. You can't be in work mode when you're around the kids, and it's like, you just want to get stuff done because you're kind of masking the pain that you're feeling because you don't really want to leave your family. I know I did. I hated it.
Dude, there's times that I've been away and I sit and I'll call my wife and she's like, hey, what's wrong? And she'll hear me kind of sniffle or whatever, right? Dude, I'm 250 pounds, 6'2" guy, right? And I'll be up there and I'll be like, man, it's not a good day today. I miss you guys, right? And so, and she's like, all right, well, it's just a couple more days. You're gonna be home, what I mean? Then she talks me through it, and then I get upset, and then she talks me through it and say, hey, you're just a couple more days. You're gonna be home, and then we'll be together again. So, and like I said, that's just been with this last company I've been with. A lot of other times I've been home. Right. I have been home. Like I am home every night, but I still work the long hours, like 16s, 15s, 18s, 20s, 32s back in the day. Right. And I was home and I was never home. I just always worked. Right.
Yep.
And I did that all for money and to make my family better, but I lost my time and I don't want that. I don't want that anymore. I want the time.
And it's good to see that you're making the changes. And for you guys who are listening, bro, I mean, like Shane, like myself, it's never too late to make that change. It just takes that commitment. How do you eat an elephant? I always say, one bite at a time, just being consistent and steady and making the changes so we can create a better life for our families, for ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Shane, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about you being a foreman, right? Being a leader and stuff like that. How is it that you, like, say, for instance, what is it that you do, like, when you notice somebody on your crew who's not acting okay, you start recognizing that something's going on. I think that's a big important as leaders, that we are able to read the people that work for us or work with us, right?
Right.
Because we tend to, as men, hide or mask our feelings, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you do pay attention to those little details, you will see something change in that person,
Yeah.
and it's okay for you to ask them, hey man, are you doing okay? And pull them off the side and be like, man, are you really okay? Is that something you see a lot
Yeah.
of?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm here to help. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
anything I can do. If someone says, "Hey," we just had it this past weekend where this past week, someone said, foreman said, "Hey, I'm not." The lineman said, "I'm not feeling good," right? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Do you want to go? You need to go home, or are you okay?" And he said, "No, I'll hang out for a little while." Well, eventually he went home, right? There's been other times where I've had a foreman or a lineman that's not having good home life, right, with their wife,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'll be like, and I can see it in their face,
Yeah.
right? They're really upset, right? And I'll be like, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need the time off? You want me to have someone cover you? Do you want to go home? I'll take you home, or I'll take you, you could leave and I'll stay here and watch the crew."
Mm-hmm.
Right. So anything that where I can see a change, or anything that I can help with, it doesn't even have to be a lineman, right? I could be an apprentice, a groundman, anything that
Yeah.
where I can try to help, I will help. I've
Mm-hmm.
had quite a few linemen and foremen that are still today, and even GFs that, they've called and said, "Hey, this, that, or this," and dude,
Mm-hmm.
I'll help anybody, right? I mean, I'm here to help. You know what I mean? And even if I just, like you, right? If me and you're talking and you call me later today and say, "Hey, dude, I drove down to Mexico. We're going on vacation. My flat tire. I don't have no tires. I'm in trouble. Dude, I'm
Mm-hmm.
on my way. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
on my way. I'm here to help, right? Hey,
Mm-hmm.
kids, we're gonna go help. You know what I mean? And that's what I hope also, that I've taught my kids, and my wife has taught our kids also. You help. We're here to help, right? We're blessed enough with, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
we got okay money. We're here to bless, to help people also. So
Mm-hmm.
anywhere we can help, and especially on the cruise, I'm all about the lineman, dude. Where I sit right now, I'm a GF, right? I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm for the company. I'm for that. But I'm gonna tell you, you never know when the next time I'm gonna be driving a digger with a pole on it, right? So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna be people that are out there like shit. And then I'm out there in 2 weeks because maybe I screwed up in my job. And now I'm with them. They're like, "Oh, there's that asshole." Ain't
Mm-hmm.
happening. Ain't happening. I am in the middle and always will. And I'll always lean more towards the guys, because that's where I'm at. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Not saying that I'm not here to for the company, to where they got in at 6 and they write till midnight, right? I'm not gonna let that happen either.
Yeah.
Because we gotta have contractors to work for. And if we keep taking, dude, we're gonna be in a bad shape, right? Or if
Mm-hmm.
tools are stolen, totally not cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's help, or if it's, in that matter, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. Um, we definitely have to have a level, our character, especially being a leader, right?
Yeah.
We have to have our character, that when they see us, they know that, hey, this guy doesn't budge on certain things, right? Um, One of the things I always used to tell my guys when I was pushing is, man, I don't care what you do, just don't, I'm not going to lie for you. Don't make me
Yeah.
lie for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd put it back on them. They're grown men. I shouldn't have to
Yeah.
babysit at all. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cover. I'm not going to do any of those things. Because then what that says about me is that, hey, he's able to compromise here. Where else is he compromising in his life? I've been sober 16 years now, brother.
Yeah.
And I get approached all the time. Well, why don't you drink? Why don't you drink? And it's not that I can't drink. I can. But how am I supposed to tell somebody who's struggling with alcohol, don't drink, but yet I'm over there kicking back beer or alcohol, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm gonna look like a hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna walk the walk or talk the talk, I better walk the walk, you
Yeah.
know. that's crux of being a leader and influencer. You know what I mean? You got to be able to walk that walk.
And I think also too, with the being a leader part, foreman, general foreman, superintendent, whatever. I just recently, I've asked a couple people just how they feel about, how do you think I'm doing? What can I work on as a supervisor, right? Now, I'm not the best, but what I want to be the best. So tell me something I can help on, and one of my good friends said, hey, this is what I think you maybe need to work on. There's a couple things. I'm not trying to beat you up, but this is just a couple things. I didn't take it as you jerk, I'm not going to talk to you again. I took it as, hey, thank you. Right. And there's a superintendent that we have, and a couple of them actually, that I've asked the same, and they tell me like, hey, this, maybe this, or over here, this, right. And that just makes me better. So then and that makes me better towards the guys that are underneath me, or the 4 guys, or it could be the 50 guys, whatever role I play in the leadership. I want to be that guy. I want to be someone that's respected. I want to be someone that's like, dude, Shane's a good leader. And I want him, you know what I mean? And anything more that I can learn to make myself better, I'm in. 100%. And not only that, as a father also,
Absolutely.
I'll take any criticism. Just at first it'll hurt, right? At first it will hurt, but if I take the criticism, then I can definitely slowly try to change. I can't change overnight, but maybe I can change little things, like you said earlier, piece by piece by piece, 1 bite at a time.
Exactly. That little microdosing. Everybody's in a microdosing now, start by doing that in your life. You know what I mean? Modeling is definitely more important than teaching. We can sit there all day and just try to teach. But if we're not modeling that behavior in our own life, we're not being as effective as we think we are,
Yeah.
Now, it's crazy because, we've had a lot of suicides go on. It's heartbreaking,
Yeah, big time.
And for our industry, I had Brady Hansen, I talked to him on the podcast, and one of the things he said was that as linemen, our whole job, right, is making connections. We're always making connections, whether it be macking, grounding, whatever, right?
Right.
We're always making these connections, right? So we're good at it. We know how to make connections. He's like, why don't we take that when we talk to people? Why don't we take that when we try to connect to our brother, try to connect to our spouse, try to connect to our children? And you do that by what? We do that by asking questions.
Yeah. I think sometimes, us journeyman linemen and the apprentices coming in, or groundmen, once you get to become journeyman, right? I think a lot of times we feel we have the S under our shirt, right? We feel that we're Superman, right? And we feel like we can walk on water. And then we have that attitude, like, dude, we're journeyman linemen, dude. And something to be said for us, right? We're strong. We're very strong-willed. We're different kind of people. We do a lot of work. But at the same time, exactly what you said about connections. If you're having troubles in anything like drugs, alcohol, marriage, anything, you need to connect. Because if we don't do those connections with those kind of people or get help, right? Then those people will falter. And Local 47 does a lot of good stuff with helping. There's a lot of good guys that are in there that help out, like you said, including yourself. That if you have problems in that matter, that it's just a call. It's not like if someone has a problem, they call me. I'm not going to call 250 people and say, hey, can you believe so-and-so's got this problem? No, just we're going to get you help. We want to get you help, right? Because I've had a groundman that became a lineman, and he passed due to drugs, and just not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
And it was a sad deal. Loved the guy, man. Loved him. Great dude. And even my wife knew him very, very well. And he passed. It was like, oh my God, right? And then they even he surfed too, and they did a little surf out, and they paddled out for him out in Huntington, right? And it was sad news, and it sucks when they get to that stage. It's you think they're okay, but then they're not, and then they're okay, and then they're not, and then before you know it, they take their life, right? And they don't even know it. And they, like you said, they didn't make that connection.
Yeah, definitely. When we were going through like grief counseling and stuff like that, they're training us to ask questions like, say, for instance, a person who's really going to commit suicide, right? They already have it planned out. They know. So if you ask them, how would you do it? Right. Little things, asking, questions.
Yeah.
They will have it planned out in detail how they would do it. They'll start giving away things, like they're not going to need those things anymore, stuff that had value to them, right? And those are some indications for you guys listening of people who could possibly be on the verge of taking their own life, So ask questions, guys. I mean, you never know where people are in their life.
And I think with that
be
said,
kind,
yeah. I think with what you just said, that last thing there is, don't when you hear those keywords or what you said, those phrases, then don't take it for granted. Just go, I'll help them tomorrow, right? That might be their last day, right? So if we can pick up on that, right? Which the phrase you said of the little keywords there, I didn't know that either. So it's good that that's out there, but it's definitely, if you hear those kind of things, don't wait for tomorrow, because tomorrow might be that might be done, right? It might be that night. So we just gotta really help them, and we don't need anybody, brother, sister in the trade, or anybody at that matter, doesn't need life.
No, for sure. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, Shane. I want to talk to you about boundaries, brother. Now, in this industry, I know a lot of brothers that they call me up, they talk to me like, oh, Dave, I want to be more present with my family, but I took this call out. I don't even want to go, but I said yes, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I always tell them is, man, you got to have better boundaries, brother. You got to stop being that yes man. It's okay to allow someone to take that crew. Don't feel like you're letting that crew down. You know what I mean? If you have some important stuff, if you're always that guy who's taking those call outs, you know what I mean? You don't need to take every single call out. You know what I mean? If you have something planned, but communication is also key too. Don't say you're going to do something and all of a sudden an hour before you go out, you're, no call, no show or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. How do you, how have you helped people, to overcome that? Like when they come to you as a leader, do you have your guys come to you, or do they believe they can come to you and stuff like that and tell you stuff?
I hope they do. Maybe some people have, but I think some people, like, when you're a GF, they think you're management, right? So a lot of time they might go to the foreman. In my role right now, like I've had people maybe as a foreman, maybe a little more as a GF, they think I'm management, and they think, I'm going to turn them in, or, not that they're doing anything wrong, but, I'm going to go that route.
Yeah.
I'm open, man. My door's always open. You can come in and shut the door and say either, hey, Shane, I don't like the way you did this, or hey, Shane, I need help in this. And, it's always open. I hope people know that. Maybe sometimes I don't say enough, and maybe that's my fault that it's always open, but it always is, in anything. And my boundaries, like you were just saying about not taking that call out, I'm, like I said earlier, I'm guilty of it too, right? There's days that Saturdays I'm like, hey, I'm going to stay up here tonight, to Dawn, I'll be, hey, I'm going to stay up here tonight. I'm going to come home tomorrow night on Saturday. They need me. Well, if I really wanted to go, I could just tell the other GF, hey, can you handle it today? Right. And he'll be like, yeah, no problem. I got you. He's all about helping out too. Right. So I can come home. Right. But instead I get so wrapped up in that. And I get so like, no, hey, there's a freeway crossing, or hey, no, there's a railroad crossing, or no, there's a big job. I want to make sure everybody's safe. When the other GF is just as good. Right. Just as good. And the crews we have are awesome. So it's just, you got to trust. I think you got to just trust in what's there and what else is there to help you. And then those boundaries can be, hey, I'm going home tonight. I need to go home. Right. And I instead of just taking Saturday, Sunday, maybe, hey, I'm going to take Monday off too.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need the extra whatever money for that day. Just stay home. If, not too long ago, I wasn't gonna, but I did, but my son, some friends at work and some other friends put some money together, and he made some money, and if you made enough, you got to cut the principal's tie off, right, at elementary in front of the whole school, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna go. Right? I was just like, and then I was like, well, what time is it? Right? I'm already like, hey, well, what time is it gonna go? Because I gotta get, right? Well, it was at 8 something in the morning, and so I called the superintendent. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay for this, right?" And it was awesome. I left at 9:30, 10, got back up where I needed to be, whatever. They didn't question nothing. My superintendent, the foreman, the other GF, nothing. Hey, how do you do? Let me see the video, right? And I showed it. Dude, my son was stoked. He looked over at me and mom. We're there. That's what it's about.
Heck yeah, for sure. Shane, we're almost done here with this. I wanted to wrap this up by asking you, what a bit of advice can you share to our audience now about being a better father, husband, leader, mentor? What can you share? One thing.
I think the number one thing comes to mind is what we just mainly hit a lot is time. I think you need to give that time to your wife. You need to give that time to your kids. You need to give time to that family time, including my mom, right? Grandma and grandpa, my mom. I don't give enough time there either, right? I come home because I'm only home for the weekend. I don't go back up to my mom who lives in Phelan. I don't give that time, right? I need to.
Yeah.
I need to give that time to my mom. I need to give time to my kids and my wife. So I think the number one thing for all the listeners out there, time. It's all about that time. Give back. We're all so busy. We get caught up in being a lineman, the apprentice, the groundman, or in this trade. But then you forget about the time that you lose, and the time you lost is gone. Right. And so that's the number one thing. And the last thing I'd like to say is just, we're a brotherhood out there and a sisterhood. We need to all stay together, be together, watch each other, be safe. Thank to the men and women that served our country, including you. Thank you. But that's always top. And and just let's watch out for each other, because we don't need anybody dying. We don't need anybody losing their finger, their toes, their hands. Just let everybody come to work the same way and go home the same way they got there.
Yes.
Right. And that's the only way we can do that is it's back to what it is, time. If we rush through everything, we forget steps, we get hurt. Right. Then we go home and we don't give the time back to our kids, we'll lose it. Then they forget the time, and then we lose that part. So I just say time. Let's give the time.
I like that, man. Well, once again, Shane, thank you so much, bro, for coming on here and just sharing your wisdom on this episode of Lineman Chronicles. I know our guests are gonna really, really value and cherish everything that you just said on here today. And thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And like I said, thank you for your service again. And thank you.
Absolutely. We'll be talking to you soon.
All right, man. Be safe.